older who are still active, still sharp, and still walking to the grocery store without help. So what's their secret? It's not magic. It's not perfect genetics. And no, it's not expensive supplements. Since 1928, Japan has had a nationwide morning movement routine, a simple set of 6 gentle exercises practiced by kids, adults, and seniors alike. No equipment, no gym, just 15 minutes a day. That adds decades of strength, balance, and confidence. In this video, I'll break down those 6 exact movements, step by step, show you how to do them properly at any fitness level, and most importantly, how they help you age stronger, not slower. Before we get started, drop your name and where you're watching from in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. Number 1, Shikodachi, the sumo stance. Let's kick things off with a movement that's been used by Japan's most powerful athletes for over 1,500 years. It's called Shikodachi, or the sumo stance, and it's not just for wrestlers. This posture builds the exact leg strength older adults need for everyday life, getting out of chairs, climbing stairs, keeping balance, and preventing falls. Here's how to do it. Stand with your feet twice, shoulder width apart. Turn your toes outward at a 45-degree angle. Now slowly lower your hips like you're sitting between your legs, not behind them. Keep your spine straight and your chest open. Place your hands on your thighs for support if needed. At first, just hold this for 20 to 30 seconds. If you feel shaky, stand near a wall or hold onto a sturdy chair. As you get stronger, work up to 1-2 minutes. You'll feel it in your quads, glutes, and inner thighs, muscles most people over 50 have lost touch with. Why does this matter? Because those are your independence muscles. When they're strong, you move it like someone 20 years younger. When they're weak, that's when stairs become scary. Biomechanics studies have shown this stance actually activates more leg muscles than regular squats, but with less joint strain. In the wide open hip angle, it helps undo decades of stiffness from sitting too much. Master this one move and you'll build the foundation for all the others. Next up, we're going to test your balance in a completely different way with a posture inspired by a cat getting ready to leap. Number 2, Nekowashi Dachi, the cat stance. If Shikodachi gave you a solid foundation, this next move wakes up the part of your body that quietly saves you from injury every single day, your balance system. Nekowashi Dachi, or the cat stance, comes from traditional karate and mimics the way a cat gently tests the ground before pouncing. It's graceful, subtle, and surprisingly powerful for your ankles, hips, and core. Here's how to do it. Start by standing with one foot slightly forward. The ball of your front foot lightly touches the ground like a cat pawing the floor. Your back foot stays fully planted, carrying about 70% of your weight. Both knees are gently bent, and your hips stay square facing forward. It'll feel weird at first, and that's the point. This position activates deep stabilizer muscles most people haven't used in years. It sharpens your ankle control, strengthens the arch of your foot, and lights up the core to keep you upright. These are the exact muscles that help you avoid slips and falls on uneven surfaces. Start by holding for 20-30 seconds on each side next to a wall or chair for safety. Over time, add small weight shifts or slow arm movements to challenge your stability. Bonus: Japanese therapists often prescribe this stance to retrain balance after injury. That's how effective it is. Once you get comfortable here, we'll take things down to the floor and discover how a centuries-old sitting position can realign your posture better than any back brace ever could. Number 3, Seiza, proper sitting posture. Let's take it to the floor, but don't worry, this one isn't about flexibility or pain. It's about resetting your posture from the ground up, just like the Japanese have done for centuries. Seiza, which means proper sitting, was once the standard way people sat during meals, tea ceremonies, and meditation. Today, it's a gentle but powerful way to stretch the muscles that cause most posture problems after 50. Here's how to do it. Kneel on a mat or soft surface. Keep your knees together and fold your feet underneath you so the tops of your feet rest on the floor. Then slowly sit back onto your heels, keeping your back tall and relaxed. Feel tight in the knees or ankles. Totally normal. Just place a firm cushion or a yoga block between your heels and hips. That tiny adjustment makes a big difference. Why does this matter? Because the seated position stretches tight hip flexors and quads, the exact muscles that pull your body into that or hunched over aged posture. It also activates your deep core and spinal stabilizers, unlike sitting in a chair where those muscles basically shut off. Start with just 30 seconds to 1 minute and gradually build to 3-5 minutes a day. Do it while watching TV or meditating, and it'll quietly start to reshape how you sit, stand, and walk. And now that your posture is waking up, it's time to tap into something deeper, both physically and mentally. The next movement isn't just for your body, it's for your brain and nervous system. Number 4, Zazen, seated meditation. Now that you've started to unlock better posture with CISA, let's go deeper, not just into your hips and spine, but into your nervous system itself. Zazen, which literally means seated meditation, is more than just sitting still. It's a powerful isometric posture that comes from Zen monasteries where monks would hold it for hours a day, not just for spiritual clarity, but for physical strength and endurance. Here's how to sit on the floor in a cross-legged position. If you can do full or half lotus, great. If not, a simple crisscross seat is perfect. Now place a firm cushion under your hips. This slight elevation makes it easier to keep a naturally tall spine. Imagine a string lifting the top of your head toward the ceiling. Your shoulders relax. Your chin slightly tucks. Hands rest gently in your lap. Now breathe. That's it. But don't be fooled. This position activates your deep core, including the transverse abdominis and multifidus muscles, which protect your spine and improve balance. Meanwhile, the hips get a deep stretch, especially if you sit consistently each day. But here's where it gets really interesting. Studies show that Zazen stimulates the parasympathetic nervous system, the part of your brain that tells the body you're safe now. Heal. This helps lower cortisol, calm the mind, and even promote cellular repair. Start with 5-10 minutes a day, focusing on slow, natural breathing. Over time, aim for 15 to 20 minutes. You'll feel a shift not just in your spine, but in how you handle stress, sleep, and even pain. And once your core is awake and your nervous system is on your side, it's time to rebuild true strength from the legs up with a stance designed by samurai. Number 5, Kibadachi, the horse stance. If Zazen tuned up your inner strength, Kibadachi is where we bring it outward with a powerful grounded stance used by samurai warriors and karate masters to train for battle. But today, you're not training for war. You're training for independence. Kibadachi means horse stance, and it mimics the stable position of sitting on horseback. It's designed to build deep leg strength, lateral stability, and awaken muscles most people stop using after age 50. Here's how to do it. Stand with your feet a little wider than shoulder width, about 1 extra foot on each side. Keep your feet parallel, not turned out. Bend your knees and lower your hips as if seated into an invisible chair. Your spine stays tall, core engaged, and your arms relaxed by your sides. Hold for 20 to 30 seconds and repeat 2 to 3 times. Over time, aim for 1-2 minutes per round. Feel the burn, that's your quads, adductors, glutes, and deep hip stabilizers all firing at once. Why does this matter? Because these are the muscles that prevent side-to-side falls, improve how your hips and knees track together, and support joint health in the long run. Studies even show Kibadachi improves proprioception, your body's sense of space and movement, something that naturally declines with age. Train this consistently and you'll feel more stable walking on uneven surfaces, stepping off curbs, or getting out of bed. Now to tie it all together, we'll end with one final move. It's not ancient, but it's the perfect blend of modern science and ancestral wisdom. And it will show you just how strong your legs have truly become. Number 6, wall squat, the invisible chair. We've built your foundation, fired up your balance, reset your posture, awakened your core, and grounded your strength. Now it's time to test the whole system with a deceptively simple movement that many trainers call the Great Revealer. Enter the wall squat, also known as the invisible chair. It's not traditional Japanese, but it's widely used by modern Japanese physiotherapists and coaches, especially in rehab and senior fitness programs. Why? Because it activates everything you have been working on all at once without requiring any equipment. Here's how to do it. Stand with your back flat against the wall, feet about 12 inches forward and shoulder width apart. Slowly slide down the wall until your knees are bent at a 90-degree angle, like you're sitting in an invisible chair. Make sure your knees are stacked over your ankles, not shooting past your toes. Now, hold. Start with 30 seconds, breathing deeply and evenly. Gradually work up to 2 to 3 minutes over time. You'll feel it in your quads, glutes, hamstrings, and core. But the real magic is what's happening inside. Studies show that wall squats stimulate slow twitch muscle fibers, the ones responsible for endurance and postural support. These muscles are key for standing longer, walking farther, and reducing knee pain. Even better, wall squats promote capillarization, blood vessel growth, improve circulation to the legs, and have been linked to maintaining bone density, a huge factor in preventing osteoporosis. Pro tip, place a soft ball or pillow between your knees and gently squeeze it during the hold. This fires up your inner thigh muscles and encourages better knee alignment. This movement is also your progress tracker. If you start at 30 seconds and 1 month later, you're holding for 2 minutes, your body is telling you you're getting stronger. And here's the best part. No gym, no impact, no excuses. Now that you've learned all 6 movements, I'm going to show you exactly how to put them together into a real-life routine that takes just 5 minutes a day and could transform how you move for the next 20 years. Don't go anywhere. This is the part that makes all the difference. You've made it to the end, and now you've got something powerful in your hands. Not just 6 movements, but a system that's helped tens of thousands of Japanese adults stay strong, independent, and pain-free deep into their 80s, 90s, and even past 100. And here's the best part. You don't need to do all 6 every day. Let me show you a realistic routine that fits into busy lives and tired bodies. Just 5 to 7 minutes a day. Morning, 2.5 minutes total. Start with 30 seconds of Seiza. Gently stretch and realign your posture. Move into 1 minute of Zazen. Activate your core and calm your mind. Finish with 30 seconds per leg of Neko Ashidachi. Wake up your balance system. Evening, 4 minutes total. Begin with 1 minute of Shikodachi. Reopen tight hips and legs after a long day. Shift into 1 minute of Kibadachi. Strengthen legs and lateral stability. End with a 2-minute wall squat, your personal progress check-in. That's it. No gym, no pressure, no excuses. Just a few intentional minutes that compound daily into strength, balance, and confidence. Remember, this isn't about being perfect. It's about being better than yesterday. That's the Japanese mindset of Kaizen, small, consistent improvements that lead to big changes over time. If you've made it this far, I'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment with your first name, age, and where you're watching from. I read every one, and I'll be choosing a few to send a printable cheat sheet of all 6 moves. Your future self will thank you for starting today.
Today we're going to talk about the absolute #1 best meal to prevent heart attacks and a stroke. There's something very unique about heart attacks and strokes. 80 to 90% of heart attacks are clots. Now, you might think like this plaque that builds up. No, most of heart attacks come from clots. And 87 to 91% of strokes also come from clots. And the meal we're going to talk about today really has to do with preventing these clots. And this information today is based on the works from Professor Douglas Kell. Genius, okay? I will put a link down below referencing some of his information, but he stumbled on something very fascinating relating to dormant microbes. And a lot of these dormant microbes are actually pathogenic. Okay, they create disease, but they're asleep and they're waiting for an opportunity to come back alive. I mean, even in the winter, for example, you have all these microbes in the soil that become frozen, but they're going into this dormant mode or a spore mode, and they're waiting until the season to change where they can come out and thrive. So this is what you need to know. Normally, when a clot forms, whether you cut yourself on your finger or something happens internally, you have certain things that come in there, certain proteins that form a clot. And then right after that, once it heals, it dissolves. Sometimes within minutes, sometimes hours, sometimes a little bit longer. This is a normal clotting process. If we didn't have this survival mechanism, we would bleed to death. However, in certain circumstances, especially with heart attacks and strokes, we have a different type of clotting that occurs. Now we have dense, matted strings of spaghetti that get hardened that are very difficult to dissolve. What you need to know is when we're dealing with most heart attacks and most strokes, we're not talking about a normal clot. We're talking about a different type of clotting where this normal clotting process changes over into something that is very dysfunctional. What causes this normal clotting process to turn over into this dysfunctional clotting process? The first thing in the perfect storm is a leak from either in your gums, in your mouth, or in your gut. If you have a certain type of pathogen that breaks down part of its outer shell, okay, or they call it the outer wall, that's called an endotoxin, okay, endotoxin. And all it takes is the tiniest amount of this endotoxin from this pathogen to cause this conversion from a normal clot to an abnormal clot. Even when they do an evaluation with calcium in your arteries, they might find soft plaquing. In that plaquing, they find many times this endotoxin, which again, it's just a little tiny piece of a pathogen. We also have excessive iron. What you need to know about iron is that your body has all these mechanisms to tightly control iron, because if there's too much iron, your pathogens will just thrive like crazy. Whereas we need oxygen to live, pathogens live on iron. And so there's this battle between the good bacteria and the bad bacteria fighting for iron. And if there's too much free iron, that can feed this endotoxin and amplify it. In fact, that free iron can actually wake up these dormant microbes and create more clotting. And this is why people that have certain genetic problems with too much iron, they're at risk for heart attacks and strokes and inflammation. You need to be cautious about taking too much iron, especially as you age, and you're more at risk for this problem, and especially if you have endotoxins. So where does this extra iron come from? Well, a lot of times it comes from fortified foods. They fortify cereal, bread, pasta with this iron, okay? Now, you also have iron from your food, like in red meats. That's the iron that our body can really use to go into the blood cell and our muscle tissue. Also, from the supplements that people take, I would never recommend someone taking a supplement with iron, even if they're anemic. Instead, I would probably have them take a heme type of iron from either red meat or from liver, something like that, but not the type of iron that's in most of the supplements, especially the one-a-days. I also do not recommend that you cook in iron skillets. As a side note, when you drink alcohol, that also increases more iron in our bodies. So you have to be careful with that as well. Now let's talk about the stress. When you go through stress, you increase adrenaline. Adrenaline takes this to the next level. This will really supercharge or 10x the amplification of these pathogens in relationship to be able to consume more iron. Because if you think about it, adrenaline is a stress, and stress shuts down your own immune system and allows these microbes to actually be out of balance and start to grow more. And this is why even if you take a steroid, which is kind of a synthetic version of cortisol, which is another stress hormone, that can really take your immune system and just completely turn it off. This is why when someone goes through stress, the risk of dying from a heart attack goes up sometimes up to 2,000%, especially after severe stress or grief from the loss of a loved one. Now, I do want to mention a couple other things about this leaky gum and leaky gut situation. We need to know what causes this leak in the first place. Now, with your gut, it could be gluten, That's the protein that we can't really digest too well in certain grains. Alcohol, smoking, seed oils are very corrosive, create like a rusting effect on our tissues. Ultra processed foods, refined sugars, refined starches actually feed these microbes, especially the pathogens. NSAIDs, that's for pain, that can actually destroy the lining of the tissues, and especially antibiotics. Now let's talk about the perfect anti-clotting meal to prevent all of this. You know, when you think about it, most people think if we're talking about a meal to prevent a heart attack or a stroke, they're immediately going to think, oh, we have to go low cholesterol. We need to consume less saturated fats, right? That is definitely not what I recommend, and that is based on some past outdated information that is completely untrue. And if you have any attention on this cholesterol connection to heart attacks, I put a link down below of a video that will really help you sort that out. So now let's get into the perfect anti-clotting meal. The first thing I'm going to talk about is the protein for this meal. We want a protein that doesn't have necessarily excessive amounts of iron. And out of all the protein that would be the best for that, it would be the wild-caught salmon. Now, you can do other fatty fish, but wild-caught salmon is one of the proteins with lower iron, but it's also the highest in omega-3 fatty acids, which is really good for preventing clotting because it thins the blood, it reduces inflammation in the arteries. And salmon does have some iron, but it definitely doesn't compare to red meat. So let's pair the salmon with a very specific type of salad that involves arugula. Arugula is very unique because it has the most nitric oxide. Now, I didn't talk about nitric oxide in the first section of this video, but I want to let you know that nitric oxide is a super powerful anti-clotting compound. And this will also help if you have high blood pressure. And the second thing that has the most nitric oxide is beets. So if we add the beet to the arugula, we have a very powerful anti-clotting salad. Now, let's not stop there. Let's add some extra virgin olive oil, which has really key polyphenols, which bind with iron and help to lower iron, okay? Not to mention, polyphenols are very anti-inflammatory, and plus, extra virgin olive oil will help to decrease blood pressure if you have it. Then, if we add some apple cider vinegar to that, we can tighten any type of leakiness in our tissues, especially if it's in the colon. So apple cider vinegar can help do that. Now, if we add some garlic to that salad, or maybe even put it over the salmon, now we're really in business of supporting the cardiovascular system because we're going to thin the blood. We're going to add polyphenols to also bind with that extra iron if you have any. And garlic also is a powerful anti-pathogenic remedy. So that'll help with any microbes that are in your body that shouldn't be there. Okay, so this is the salad that goes with the salmon, okay? If we add a little sauerkraut, just a little bit, maybe like a fourth of a cup, then we're going to add lactic acid bacteria, which actually binds with these endotoxins and helps neutralize them. Now, there's other ways to get lactic acid. You can do a little kombucha tea. You can add the juice from pickles, for example. So sauerkraut is not the only way to get lactic acid. But let's not stop there. Let's add some more polyphenols to bind with the excess iron, because the free iron is really at the core of this clotting problem. So if we added either green tea or black tea, we can bind up some of that iron. If we also add a little dark chocolate at the end, now you can either get the 85% or 90% dark chocolate and add that to the meal, just a little bit, which can actually bind this iron because it's loaded with polyphenols. But also dark chocolate is loaded with magnesium, which will also help the arteries and the heart, because heart problems are really related to too much calcium and not enough magnesium. Magnesium is one of the best things for atrial fibrillation and also to help lower blood pressure. You can even take this dark chocolate powder and put it in your coffee in the morning. That's what I do. Just a little bit, dissolve it up, and drink that down for the polyphenols. After you've eaten the meal, okay, go for a 10-minute or a 20-minute post-meal walk while you breathe through your nose. Nasal breathing increases nitric oxide and actually enhances the oxygen. And exercise itself can help dissolve clots. Not to mention help your blood sugars be balanced better, not to mention increase more oxygen into the body. And so the combination of this meal with this exercise is going to greatly reduce your risk of both heart attacks and strokes. All right, now that you understand a little bit more about clots, the next most important thing to really learn about is the powerful effects of magnesium on the cardiovascular system. And for that information, I put this video up right here. Check it out. The benefits of drinking clove water at night. Let's talk about this. Cloves at one time were worth more than gold. This is what they look like. You can see it in this little jar right here. They're these little tiny structures. A lot of people might have had these in like ham, and they're sold as a spice, and you have them already. You just need to know how to use them and what they're good for. They were so valuable, they were exchanging them with gold. Amazing. They've been used in China for over 2,000 years for certain medicines. They were also used in the Black Plague. When you might have seen pictures of those people with those long masks, and they'd be basically burning certain herbs, and would breathe in the vapors. Well, one of the spices they used was clove because of its antiviral and antibacterial properties. Also, in early dentistry, before they had certain medications that numbed the tooth problem, they use clove oil. I mean, in fact, even with minor surgeries, they use clove oil because of its analgesic effect. Very similar to the synthetic lidocaine that certain dentists use. So it's a topical, and you can put it externally on your skin. You can also put it on your gums. You could put it directly on the tooth if there's a cavity and the nerve is exposed. It will help numb that nerve. Now, the cool thing about this is there's virtually no side effects. It has antibacterial, antifungal, anti-candida, antiviral properties. In addition to numbing the tooth or numbing pain, it can also go after the microbes that are growing there, whether it's a fungal, candida, bacteria, or even virus. And where I found this information was in certain patents on using the oil of clove for various things, helping increase the bile flow as well as increasing digestive enzymes. They patented mouthwash, toothpaste, as well as a gingivitis treatment. So it works on everything oral. And then I started looking at medications and what medications that they can, compared to in a similar effectiveness or even work better. So in this first study, they compared clove oil to something called benzocaine, which is a pain reliever that dentists use to numb the teeth. And this was in the Journal of Dentistry. They found that this oil from clove worked faster, it was longer lasting, and more effective for toothaches as well as tooth infections because it also had this antimicrobial effect as well. In another study, they compared eugenol to hydrocortisone, and they found the effectiveness was equal or greater in reducing swelling and redness of the skin. And this study was in one of the inflammatory research journals. The next study I looked at was on fungal infections like toenail fungus, athlete's foot, and they compared tea tree oil to clove oil. And clove oil killed candida and fungus faster. Then there was a comparison between clove oil and lidocaine. And in that study, clove oil had longer lasting effects for numbing. And that was in the Journal of Pain Research. So now let's get into how you can use this because you already have this in your pantry. You just need to know how to use it and what conditions you can use this on. And I'm going to give you a couple different recipes that you can make this in a salve and liquid that you can drink before bed. But let's first talk about the conditions that it's good for. Now, of course, I already mentioned it's great for anything with teeth pain or biofilms like plaquing, things like that. And of course, you could even just take one of these cloves and then just suck on it, or you can just take the oil from it and with a little cotton swab and dab it on the tooth and the gum around the tooth. But if you have a cavity, you want to actually put it right into that cavity directly. Another application is for muscle pain, okay, as well as joint pain. You're going to basically just take a couple drops, put it in a little olive oil or coconut oil, and rub it into the muscle or joint. You can also mix a couple drops in Epsom salts and water, all dissolved nicely, and rub that into the muscle as well. Because the Epsom salts is the magnesium that can also help the muscles. Some people use it as a lip balm, and you can put this on like a cold sore, which is herpes simplex. You'd have to mix a couple drops with either beeswax or coconut oil and just rub it into the lip. Remember, it's antiviral as well, and herpes simplex is a virus. With the mosquito repellent, you would put a couple drops in a little spray bottle and you would spray that on your body. I actually use this on my cattle in the summer with all of these flies, not mosquitoes, and it works like a charm. But it's non-toxic. All right, now the following things I'm going to talk about are using clove water, which I'll explain how to prepare that. And I would drink this before bed. It seems to work really good because they help relax you and they can help you drift off into wonderful sleep as well. So might as well take it before you go to bed. It's not a necessity, but it can definitely help. So the first thing it does is it helps to detoxify the liver. So it's going to stimulate some of the enzymes to help break things down in the liver. It's going to help you with digestion. So if you have bloating, indigestion, gas, consume some of this clove water. Maybe you do this after a meal when you're bloating, and it can help reduce the bloating. Another very potent effect of this clove water is to use it for respiratory problems like bronchitis, mucus in the lungs, a cold, a cough, asthma. You can consider it as like a natural antibiotic, but without the side effects. Some people also use it for cognitive improvements, to improve the memory, concentration, the focus. But this clove water also works with heart stuff, so it can actually support a healthy heart as well, especially when you get into blood circulation. Anything related to circulation, clove water is awesome. It also has immune properties, so it can help support a healthy immune system because it's antimicrobial. Some people even use it as a mouthwash to help freshen their breath. And I've already talked about the great benefits for biofilms and breaking down plaque. And then of course, the last one, which I kind of already mentioned, was using this as a sleep aid because it's a natural sedative without the negative effects. It does not have side effects like sleeping medication does. And there's also some tryptophan in there that will actually increase serotonin and help you increase melatonin. So how do you make clove water? What you do is you take about 4 or 5 of these little cloves, okay? Put them in a cup of water and bring it to a boil, and then take it off boiling so it's simmering for 5 minutes. Now, make sure that you cover it while it's simmering because you don't want to have all these vapors escape. A lot of the remedy is in the vapors that are coming off this thing that are supposed to go back into the water. After 5 minutes, let it cool for 1 hour. What I like to do is put it back in the fridge. And then what you want to do is consume it 30 minutes before you go to bed. Now, if you're using for children, it might be a little bitter. So you might want to add a little bit of honey to it, maybe a half a teaspoon, dissolve raw honey into it, and then have them drink it. It's actually pretty delicious with honey, or I think it's good without it. If you want to make this into a cream, just put a couple drops into some coconut oil or olive oil and use that. And also if you have like some type of wound that you want to increase the healing, I would use aloe, put a couple drops of aloe and put that over the wound so you can speed up healing, and it can also act as an antiseptic. Now, if you haven't seen my other video on clove, I think you'll really enjoy it. I put it up right here, check it out.
In America, the average healthy lifespan ends at 66. That means for most people, everything after that is pills, procedures, and losing independence year after year. But in Japan, they have got over 95,000 people aged 100 and older who are still active, still sharp, and still walking to the grocery store without help. So what's their secret? It's not magic. It's not perfect genetics. And no, it's not expensive supplements. Since 1928, Japan has had a nationwide morning movement routine, a simple set of 6 gentle exercises practiced by kids, adults, and seniors alike. No equipment, no gym, just 15 minutes a day. That adds decades of strength, balance, and confidence. In this video, I'll break down those 6 exact movements, step by step, show you how to do them properly at any fitness level, and most importantly, how they help you age stronger, not slower. Before we get started, drop your name and where you're watching from in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. Number 1, Shikodachi, the sumo stance. Let's kick things off with a movement that's been used by Japan's most powerful athletes for over 1,500 years. It's called Shikodachi, or the sumo stance, and it's not just for wrestlers. This posture builds the exact leg strength older adults need for everyday life, getting out of chairs, climbing stairs, keeping balance, and preventing falls. Here's how to do it. Stand with your feet twice, shoulder width apart. Turn your toes outward at a 45-degree angle. Now slowly lower your hips like you're sitting between your legs, not behind them. Keep your spine straight and your chest open. Place your hands on your thighs for support if needed. At first, just hold this for 20 to 30 seconds. If you feel shaky, stand near a wall or hold onto a sturdy chair. As you get stronger, work up to 1-2 minutes. You'll feel it in your quads, glutes, and inner thighs, muscles most people over 50 have lost touch with. Why does this matter? Because those are your independence muscles. When they're strong, you move it like someone 20 years younger. When they're weak, that's when stairs become scary. Biomechanics studies have shown this stance actually activates more leg muscles than regular squats, but with less joint strain. In the wide open hip angle, it helps undo decades of stiffness from sitting too much. Master this one move and you'll build the foundation for all the others. Next up, we're going to test your balance in a completely different way with a posture inspired by a cat getting ready to leap. Number 2, Nekawashi Dachi, the cat stance. If Shikodachi gave you a solid foundation, this next move wakes up the part of your body that quietly saves you from injury every single day, your balance system. Nekawashi Dachi, or the cat stance, comes from traditional karate and mimics the way a cat gently tests the ground before pouncing. It's graceful, subtle, and surprisingly powerful for your ankles, hips, and core. Here's how to do it.